Thank you very much, Deputy Prime Minister and Lou O'Brien. It is extremely exciting to be in my hometown and be able to make an announcement today that through the support of the federal government that we are progressing the business case to establish this new factory here in Maryborough. As I said, it is our hometown. The Nioa family started our first business in 1964 in Maryborough, just outside of Maryborough and in the Fraser Coast region, and we're very, very happy and excited to be continuing that association with the town and investing further in the town and providing genuine economic benefit to the town. So it gives great personal satisfaction to me to be here. The Nioa as a company is now the largest privately owned supplier of weapons and munitions to the Australian Defence Force. We've had an association with Rheinmetall, who we're partnered with here today since 1996. So over 22 years of great partnership, and you've seen the Rheinmetall company involved in other programs like Land 400, the armoured vehicle contract. We are also partnered with them in that project as well. But the reason that we are talking about this, establishing this factory here at the moment, is because 2 years ago, Nioa partnered with Rheinmetall to win a new artillery, a contract to supply the future artillery ammunition for the Australian Army. It is a long-term 5+5+5 year contract in its initial term, and it will be to supply state-of-the-art artillery, which will give our warfighters an improvement in both the safety and their effectiveness whilst in operations. So it is world-leading technology. I have to say though that the reason that we are setting up this factory is really driven by government policy, and there are very few industries, I think, or opportunities where you can say this is really a direct result of federal government policy, but this is one, because having won those contracts to supply the munitions, the federal government insisted that not just for us but across defence industry, in their $200 billion spend, that money is spent in Australia and that it is spent on products made in Australia, and that those projects create jobs in Australia. And that federal policy setting has led us to then explore additional opportunities to add value to what otherwise would be imported product, and then partnered with Rheinmetall. That gave the impetus, that policy setting, for us to approach Rheinmetall to secure the intellectual property rights and the manufacturing rights to bring that technology to Australia. And Rheinmetall was extremely supportive in that. Above and beyond that, the federal government launched a further policy setting, which is called the Defence Export Strategy, which then required not only that goods be made in Australia, but it set an objective for Australia to become one of the top 10 defence exporting nations in the world, which set an aspirational goal for all of us to try and achieve. And that, once that policy setting was brought into our business case, we worked with Rheinmetall, and we secured commitments from Rheinmetall to take the exports from this factory and put it back through their global supply chain in direct response to that federal government policy. The last area I'll mention on federal government policy that has directly affected this is the Regional Growth Fund that we're talking about today. If the Regional Growth Fund was not available, I can guarantee that we would not have been able to get this factory to stack up in Maryborough. In fact, it may not have even stacked up for Australia. There is competition around the world for factories like this. The fact that the Australian government stood up and attracted the attention of Rheinmetall and Nioa and secured this for Australia, and then particularly demanded that it be in a regional area, not just any regional area, but one that required a transformational industry that would address unemployment issues and really target areas in Australia where there was concern. That was the policy setting and the funding that has led us to this path where we could successfully get a proposal up to put this factory in Maryborough. So I genuinely want to take my hat off to the federal government for all of the work they've done to create the framework for this to be possible. Lastly, I would just like to make comment that Lou O'Brien has been an absolute tireless advocate for this project. We have had lots of late night texts, phone calls. We've been down in Parliament. I've been sitting in his office whilst committee meetings were going on. He has been walking the halls. He has been doing everything he can to do what he can to get this here, this factory here for Maryborough. And in those calls, I can genuinely say that Lou had a driving passion to create jobs, and we've had very open conversations about his motivations for seeing jobs and the difference that those jobs can make in the lives of people, any people, but particularly young people. And I genuinely want to pay tribute to his passion to get this project here. He's been an outstanding Member of Parliament, and I really believe that without his advocacy, there is no way we would have got this quantum of funding or actually got this across the line. It is a big ask, is a big percentage of this regional growth fund that we've secured here. People shouldn't underestimate the importance of that commitment and the gravitas of that commitment. So I just conclude on those statements and thank very much the federal government, our partners Rheinmetall, and look forward to working with the people of Maryborough to create this factory and to run it for generations to come. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks, Rod.